everybody. Happy Wednesday. It is the middle of the week. Hope you're doing well. Thank you to those of you who are joining live, and hello to those who are watching in the future. Hope things are still good in the future whenever you're watching this. Today, I'm going to spend 15-20 minutes with you, maybe more. I always say it's going to be shorter and then we go long because we have such a fun time. But I am going to talk about French knots. This is something that eludes sometimes even the most experienced stitchers. It's a technique for creating an embroidered knot that can be tricky. So I'm going to teach you how I do it. It's a technique I've taught in class before, but I'm going to be a little bit more comparative today, a little bit more in depth. We're going to talk about the different things you can do to adjust the look, size, and feel of your French knots. So without further ado, let's get to stitching. So I've got my camera here. Let me put my light on. We'll go a little bit above. Sometimes this stuff, I have to keep it out of the way when I start talking because sometimes it can get in the way of my face, which we don't love, but we do love the light. Let me just turn my light up. How about that? There we go. Alrighty. So, okay, well now that's too much, I'm going to be honest. Alrighty, so we're going to talk about French knots. I believe the first thing that one should consider when doing a French knot is to make sure that you're starting with good tension. Now, if you are working on a project, for example, these are a series of portraits I'm doing of a musical artist. These are album covers for our Stitch People Club class. Hold on one second. I opened the window for fresh air, and apparently the entire neighborhood has decided to start driving around. Of course. Like, it was all quiet all morning until we go live. So, I've been working on these portraits as the Stitch People Club technique class. As you can see, because we've been stitching them, there's work on the back that I could use if I were to start French knots on these portraits here and now. I could secure my floss on the back side because there's all this extra stitching that I could then bring forward to work on these portraits. If you're starting with a blank canvas like this, you're going to need to secure your floss another way rather than looping your needle and fresh floss through on the back side. So what I'm going to do for the sake of today is just create a cross stitch. So I'm just going to bring my needle up, going to hold the tail with my index finger, and we're just going to make a cross stitch here in the Aida fabric. I'm using a size 14 Aida fabric. That's what I like to stitch my cross stitch Stitch People portraits on. And I'm using 3 threads of 6-strand DMC embroidery floss. That's my personal favorite look. I'm catching the tail to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. I'm going to clip out these little threadies from the fabric just because they're strays and we don't need them. And I'm going to finish my cross stitch just for the sake of it. So I've got a cross stitch. I have so much tension in my little project that I'm starting fresh that I can lift the whole thing by the floss and nothing is pulling out. That's the number one thing you want when you begin a French knot is tension at the top. It's not even tension so much as complete security that your floss is not going to be pulling through. Now, to complete a French knot, we'll just go over the technique first and then we'll talk about the different ways you can adjust the look of a French knot, okay? And also, I just want to remind you, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will answer them. I will answer them as we go. So in order to do a French knot, you know what? I'm just going to bring this right up in the middle. You bring your needle up where you want the French knot to go. This is step number 1. Well, technically, maybe we should call it step number 2. Step number 1 is securing your floss, making sure it's not going to pull through. Step number 2 is bringing your needle up from the back to the front where you want your French knot to go, okay? You pull it all the way through. All the way through. See how there's no slack on the back? We have this all the way through. Now, step 3. Hold your floss in your non-dominant hand. For me, that's my left hand. Hold it. Oh, I usually do a couple inches away from my my initial point there, point of entry. Then you take your needle in your stitching hand, wrap it around 2 times. And I don't believe too much rhyme or reason to this. Usually I hold with my non-dominant hand, make sure there's some tension there, and I bring my needle from above. So my needle is above the floss is below, and I wrap my needle once, twice. Okay? Then you bring your tip back down into the fabric, very, very close to where you started. We're not in the exact same hole. We are very, very close to where we started. You don't want to use the exact same hole because you don't want your knot to pull through. So even if it's just a thread between them, that's still going to give you more security. So you push your needle back through very, very close to where you came up. I'm still holding with my left hand, and you pull your needle from the back, slowly, 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 and a loop will form around your finger. Keep that loop until the bitter end, and you'll see that you can sort of play with your tension here. So by pulling on the floss with my right hand or the loop on my left hand, there's some give here as I create this French knot. Eventually the loop will pull too tight. You'll have to remove your finger, and then you can just finish pulling that through, and you have, et voila, a beautiful little French knot. Things are really shadowy. I think this light is hindering more than it is helping. We don't want things to be too shadowy here. Okay. So now we're going to do that again. Let's just create a little cluster of 3. So I'm going to bring up my needle. Whoop. We hold it with our non-dominant hand. We bring the needle from the top to the floss. We wrap twice, and we put the needle very, very close to where we brought it up, not in the exact same hole, very, very close. And we pull from the back, keeping our left or non-dominant finger until a loop is formed and it becomes too tight. We have to let go of that loop and pull tightly. A little tip, you can run your fingers down your floss. There's a little bit of a twist happening that I just want to release. The less twisted your floss is, the more successful your French knot may be. I'm going to make one more just to create a little trio and for the practice of it. So you bring needle up where you want the French knot to go. You hold a couple inches away from that entry point with your left hand. Bring your needle from above, rapidy, rapidy 2 times. Put your needle back very, very close to where you brought it up. Pull it through from the back. Keep your left hand, don't move a muscle until that loop forms. And then pull it through. And we've got a little French knot cluster. Come on, there we go. We are focusing. There we go. We've got some French knots. How's that? So you might have seen in Stitch People land all sorts of French knots. For example, in our spring fling pattern, we had whole clouds worth of French knots. Here's 2 examples, one that I stitch ahead of time, one that I stitch for class. Those are all fluffy, fluffy French knots. And how do we get that circular effect, you may be wondering? Versus down here, we have more French knots as well as the seed clusters of these little cone flowers. And we also have French knots. These blues, light and dark blues, are French knots. So how does this cloud and these seed clusters and these flowers all come from the same stitch? Well, I'll show you right now. How about that? You can adjust French knots in 3 ways. The 3 things you can do to adjust the French knot look and feel, French knots, we can do 1, the number of threads. Number 2, the number of twists. And number 3, the tension, which is kind of our focus today, but they all work hand in hand. So what do I mean by number of threads? Well, most embroidery floss, especially our favorite embroidery floss from DMC, comes in a skein like so. When you pull that floss out of the skein, you will see that what appears to be a singular thread is actually made up of 6 individual threads. So this is the first way that you can change the look of your French knot, is by adjusting the number of threads that you're using. For these French knots that we just did, we are using 3 threads. And I'm going to clip this off and show you what it looks like to use 2 threads. And then we'll use 1 thread. So I've pre-threaded this with 2 threads of the same color. And now that we have a little bit of stitching on the back, I'm just going to run my needle through and secure it before we begin. And I'm going to create a cluster of 3 more French knots. So you bring your needle up, hold with your non-dominant hand a couple inches away. I can see a twist happening in my floss that I want to get rid of, so I'm just going to run my fingers down it to sort of untwist that. All right, so I've brought my needle up where I want the French knot to go. I hold with my non-dominant hand a couple inches away from that point. I bring my needle from above, hit the floss. We'll wrap once, we'll wrap twice. You bring the point of your needle very, very close to where you brought it up, but don't share the same hole. You pull it through from the back. Keep your hand on that left side until a loop forms. You want to make sure everything's nice and tight, at least for the sake of right now's example. And you pull it through. I'm going to do 2 more so that you can see what a cluster of French knots looks like, where the only difference is the number of threads. I'm doing the exact same technique, keeping the tension the same, keeping the number of twists the same. And you'll see the difference. Alrighty. So, as you can see, this is, there we go, we'll come from here. This is 3 French knots using, where is that? Is that this guy? It's just such a shadow. It's a little less shadowy. There we go. Alrighty, so this is 3 French knots using 3 threads of floss. This is 3 French knots using 2 threads of floss. A little bit smaller, just a little bit smaller by removing 1 thread. Just a single thread. And now, if you couldn't guess, I'm going to do 3 French knots using 1 thread of floss. I know, we're getting wild and crazy. It's a crazy day to be a cross stitcher. Come on. Of course, this one doesn't want to thread. It's like, no, everybody's watching. Not gonna do it. Jackie, I just heard you got your Stitch People kit. Congratulations. Welcome to the family. You're going to be making portraits on portraits on portraits. Everybody's going to want one. Everybody's going to want one, Jackie. You're going to be the talk of the town. Have you seen those cute portraits that Jackie does? When somebody asks you to make one for them, don't second guess yourself. You say yes. You take that opportunity. Okay, so now we are going to do 3 more French knots using 1 thread of floss. So bring it up where you want it to go. Hold it a couple inches from the access point, entry point, whatever you want to call it. Bring your needle down. Put it very, very close to where you want the knot to go. And pull it through, helping that loop along as it forms around your finger until it's too small. And then you let it go. Single thread French knots are teeny. These are really, really good for pets, babies, eyeballs, the tiny, tiny little moments. These are great for like boutonnieres, or maybe if you want a diamond ring, a teeny, tiny little French knot on top of where the single stitch of cross stitching would go to represent a hand. The technique is the same. You bring your needle up where you want it to go, hold it a couple inches. Take your needle from above, wrap it around your floss 2 times, and put it down into your fabric. Keep your finger around the loop as it forms. You can adjust the tension as you go. And then, ta-da. And now you can see this itty bitty teeny tiny cluster of 3 French knots. That's what this is. So we've got 3 threads, 2 threads, 1 thread. Cluster of 3 French knots. See how much smaller they get over time? So the number of threads you use is the first way that you can adjust the look and feel of your French knots. Something else you can do is adjust the number of twists. That is the number of times you wrap your floss around your needle, which is what, the third or fourth step. So for the sake of it, I'm going to take a new color now that we're working on something new.
Jackie said she also got hobbies and weddings and knows nothing about cross stitch.
Jackie, I just heard you know nothing about cross stitch and you're excited to learn. This is a good place to start for French knots. They're really, don't let them scare you. Don't let them scare you. Rewatch this video if you have to. They just take practice. And we do have a how to cross stitch guide. If you got do-it-yourself stitch people, there is a how to cross stitch section. And we also have a free how to cross stitch guide that is a little more comprehensive. And I have a video. We have a YouTube video as well. Alrighty. I'm going to secure my needle on the back here. Secure my floss using the needle. The needle is the tool, the method by which we secure it. Alrighty, so now I'm going to show you how to adjust the size of French knot, adjusting the number of twists. I don't know why my light is so weird. Usually it's nice and even. And for some reason, it's just really, really wild, shadowy today. I really don't understand it. Maybe it's just a weird, like, overcast day. I don't know. Alrighty, so the number of twists, we have 3 threads again. So I'm going to come up near my 3 thread cluster and bring my needle up where I want the French knot to go. Then I hold it with my left hand, and now I'm going to adjust. We've been doing 1, 2 twists. I'm going to do 3, 4 twists. And I'm going to put the tip of my needle right back where I want the French knot to go. And as I pull it through, I keep a hold with my left hand. And there we go. You can see the blue one is slightly bigger than the others. You know what? Will you kill that light? I'm wondering if we just kill all these extra lights together and get rid of all the shadows. And just have this from above.
How does that look?
It's a little darker, but it's less shadowy. Will you turn on the overhead again? I don't know what the deal is, y'all.
We'll play with it.
This is so strange. Okay. So now for the sake of example, I'm going to bring my needle up. I'm going to wrap it like 6 times. And you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 times as many. And when I put my needle back down, when I keep my left finger in that loop, fixing the tension, you can see I have an even bigger French knot. It sits farther off of the fabric. You can see that 3D effect. But it does look much bigger than just 2 twists of 3 threads like that. Okay, so we'll cap this off just for the sake of the trios that we're making. So we pull our needle up where we want it to go. We hold with our left hand, bring our needle from above, twist 1, 2, 3. Let's do 4. Why not? We'll do a couple different sizes where we're just adjusting the twists. How about this, Spence? Will you turn that ring light back so it reflects off the ceiling and max out the light? And then I'm going to bring this guy around like this. We'll turn him up. I got it. There we go. Okie dokes. So now you can see the difference when we adjust the number of twists around our needle. Last but not least, for the sake of example, I'm going to use one more different color just to differentiate our adjustments here.
Lisa says this is helpful. She's not good at French.
Oh, good, Lisa. I'm so glad this is helpful. Spencer keeps passing your comments along to me. I have a hard time reading simultaneously. Whoop. Okie dokes. So now I'm going to use 3 threads, just like we've been doing. And I'll keep the number of twists the same as we originally did, just for the sake of the argument here, or for the sake of the illustration. But I'll show you the tension. Tension is a little bit more malleable. We have been doing, when you do French knot, as we have been doing, 100% of these French knots so far have had what I would call a taut tension. If that's a new word for you, taut, it just means tight enough, but not too, right? Where like, this is too tight if I'm like really pulling. This is too loose where I'm not pulling enough. Taut, it's just right. It's not going anywhere, but I'm not yanking. It's not pulling on the holes of the Aida fabric. Nothing's getting distorted. So I'm going to bring my needle up. I'm going to give this a little bit of room. We'll come over here. So you bring your needle up where you want it to go. Pull it all the way. You want it nice and taut, right? Then you hold a couple inches from that access point. Doot with your non-dominant hand. Take your needle, bring it down from above. As we originally started with the number of threads, we have 3. With the number of twists, we started with 2. So what I'm going to do for this example is just do the 2 twists. But instead of keeping things really taut throughout the process, I'm going to let it stay loose. So initially, when I've been putting my needle back down, it's been like this, where when I twist around my needle, things are nice and tight. Right now, I'm going to let it stay loose. See how it just gets a little relaxed around my needle? So that now, when I put my needle back down, again, very, very close to where I came up, not using the same hole. Now I'm going to grab my needle from the back. I'm keeping a hold on my left side, not letting that tail go, but see how loose these threads are as I pull? Now, because I'm letting this loop form around my finger, I can play with the tension. Just go really, really slow. It'll work with you. So if I just let it go, I'll have a very loose French knot. I can also play with pulling. If I pull my left finger all the way on this loop and pull my right, we readjust into getting a very, very, you can see the tight French knot starting to form, just like we've been doing. Now, if you pull too tight, that's okay. You can use the tip of your needle to kind of unwind the tension a little bit. Just pull at the floss with the tip of your needle and let it get a little loose again. Okay, so that when you let a little bit of looseness live in this French knot and you pull it, you see it looks a little bit bigger. Even though it's the same threads and the same number of wraps as this green one, it looks almost the same size as one of these blue ones, which we twisted, 3, 4, and 6 times. So that is, again, one of the methods by which you can adjust the size of your French knot. I'm going to do an even bigger one. So you bring your needle up where you want your French knot to go. You hold with your non-dominant hand. You bring your needle from above the thread. I'm going to wrap it, once again, just 2 times, and I'm going to make this one really, really loose. Put your needle back down very close, very, very close, but not in the same hole. I'm going to barely adjust this loop with my left hand and pull it, just letting it stay so loose. And look, now I have like a little loop. And that's a way that you can kind of get, a flower effect, different types of florals. Now, if you make a French knot that has a loop that is a little unruly, sometimes they might stick up like that against your fabric, and you don't maybe want that to be so 3D, you can bring your needle up kind of in the middle of that knot, and you can just tack it down. Just like a little up and down stitch to hold the edge in place. Does that make sense? And then you get a little loop, a little circle. So I'm going to do just one more where we have 3 threads of floss like we started with. We're going to do 2 twists like we started with, but we're going to do sort of a medium tension. So not quite as loose. If I were to just pull this as is, it would look very much like the one we just did. So I'm going to adjust it with my left hand in this loop ever so slightly. We pull that down, and there we have kind of a looser, bigger, fuller French knot. And that's how doing these kinds of loose French knots is how we got these kinds of clouds. This is also using DMC Moulin Etoile floss, which is a little fluffier, versus these itty bitty tiny coneflower seed pods that are really, really tight. Those are going to be a lot more like the 1, 2, and 3 thread French knots that we did at the start, just tight, tight, tight all together. Okay. So as you can imagine, if you want a really big, big, big loose French knots like these guys, you can use 3 to 6 threads. I probably wouldn't do too much more than that. 6 threads is going to look very thick. You can do 3 to 4 twists, and tension, you can keep it loose. Or on the flip side of that coin, you can do 1 to 2 threads. You can do 2 twists. 2 twists is going to be your minimum, and then you keep your tension tight. And that's going to be how you do small French knots, and this is going to be how you do large French knots. Broop, there's our little notes for the day. So, just by way of review, you bring your needle up where you want your French knot to go. This is going to be a very traditional one. You hold your floss close to your access point. Bring your needle from above the floss till you hit the floss. You wrap it 2 times. You don't even have to move your needle. You just hold it horizontal. Wrap your floss. Whoop. And then you bring your point of your needle down very close to where you want your French knot to go, very close to where you brought it up. As you pull tight, you let that loop form around your finger. This is just my method that is, I think, pretty foolproof. And then you pull tight, and that would be your traditional French knot. Alternately, the technique stays the same. You bring your needle up, hold with your left, needle from above, wrap, let's say 3 times, 4 times for the sake of it. And we're going to keep this really loose.
Gemma is on and she's walking on the beach.
Oh, I hear that Gemma is watching. Gemma is currently on vacation in Scotland, walking on the beach. Tough life, Gemma, tough life. I'm so jealous. So we're going to keep that tension loose. We did 4 twists. And you can see the size difference in our French knot just from adjusting the number of twists and having a slightly looser tension. But we didn't adjust the number of threads. So these are sort of the colors that you have to play with as you're doing French knots. The number of threads, 3, 2, 1. The number of twists, 3, 4, 6. And the tension of the knot, a little loose, super loose, medium loose, or a combination thereof. Are there any questions? French knots are your problem child, Lynn. I see that. I see that comment. Well, hopefully, I don't know. I feel like there should be a song. Maybe I should make a French knot song. It's like, you bring your needle up where you want it to go. Then you hold with the left hand really, really close. Then you bring your needle from the top and twist it twice. And you don't use the same hole, though that would be nice. You push your needle down and you pull it with your right hand. You hold it with your left hand and let the loop form. You pull it really tight and you adjust the tension as you go. And you pull it through from front to back and go nice and slow. Very intuitive song. Super easy to memorize. That'll help all of you.
IT crowd emergency number.
Oh, yeah. Spencer said, for those of you who've watched the IT Crowd, the television series, there's a episode where they make a joke that like they replace 911, like the emergency number for police and fire and stuff. They replace the 911 number with something unbelievably ridiculous. It's like, it's a very long number. And there's a song that's like 543211176329990. Like, it's just crazy. As if it's supposed to be easier. So bring your needle up. Tight, tight, tight. Hold with your left hand. Bring your needle from the top. Hit the floss. 2 reps. Put the needle back down very close to where you want it to go. And then pull to the back. Don't let go with your left. I just let go with my left. We'll get back with my left. Sometimes that happens. Just stop. Just, floss cannot do anything that you don't do to it. So if you just like stop, it's not moving. Nothing's happening. You can just fix it and keep going. It's all right. There's no such thing as a cross-stitch emergency. It's all right. You got it. And then you pull it. Bam. French knots. Knots on knots on knots. Do you have a video on how I can prepare my hoop or the thing that came in my stitch kit? No, not specifically, but there are pictures in the various guides, and I can show you right now, Jackie, because you asked. So, lucky you. So Jackie is new to cross-stitching, and Jackie just got her starter kit. Jackie has a new Q-snap, like this, to play with. Here's why I like Q-snaps instead of hoops. Watch what happens. Let's say this was my finished project and I was like, ta-dum, and I want to go put this in a frame or something like that. Sometimes people frame in the embroidery hoops. Love the way that looks, just like this. There you go. Beautiful. Sometimes you want to put it in a different frame. If you take this out of the embroidery hoop, you will notice my fabric looks like it's been in an embroidery hoop. See how kinked that is? And I only just put this in there right before our class today. And yet, I've got these irrevocable creases. I could iron that out if I don't want to, whatever. So in order to use an embroidery hoop, you've got your inner hoop and outer hoop. You take your fabric, you put it over the inner hoop, and then on the outer hoop goes right over it, sandwiches it, and you tighten it in. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I always like to go, once it's super tight, I like to pull around the edges like this just to kind of make sure things are really, really flat. You want it, once again, there's that word taut. You don't want it distorting the fabric at all, but you want it nice and tight so things are even. If you're using a Q-snap, let me get some fabric. Got a big old bag of fabric. Cool, here's a piece, that'll be big enough. So if you're using a Q-snap, it comes in pieces like this. Might even be more like that. And you put the frame together. It just, these little pipe pieces all go together. That's kind of your quote unquote inner hoop. You lay your fabric over top it. Before you do, you'll probably want to fold it in half lengthwise, fold it in half widthwise. That'll give you sort of a marking for your center point. This I was going to turn into a portrait apparently. So I've already got some markings on the back where my center point is and whatnot. You lay your fabric over top that, and you use these little clampies to clamp it all into place. And what I like about this is since these edges are bigger than your embroidery hoops, you don't get the edges, the creases in the same way. And then you can just kind of press and pull these edges periodically to keep your fabric tight. There you go, Jackie. You're welcome. There you go. Dunzo bagunzo. Thank you everybody for watching. If we don't have any more questions, I think we'll call it because we've officially covered the subject matter of mastering the tension of French knots. Not only the tension, but the number of threads and twists, because these are the 3 ways that you can get different looking French knots. Those are all the same. These are a little bit different. We've got 3, 2, 1 thread. We've got different tension. We've got numbers of twists. Lots of fun stuff going on with French knots today. So, thank you for joining. Hopefully that clears up some things. Hopefully those of you who have been struggling with French knots struggle a little bit less, or at least for very minimum know what your options are. And for those who are new, Jackie, thanks for joining. Congratulations on your starter kit. Don't forget to join, if you're on Facebook, the Stitch People community. Lots and lots of support there, lots of ideas, lots of sharing, lots of feedback happens there from other stitchers, many of whom are beginners, intermediate, advanced. So don't feel sheepish about being new. We've all got to start somewhere. So just keep on keeping on. And thank you for joining, everyone. I'll go back to my face and say ta-ta for now. Thank you for joining. It is always a pleasure. Happy stitching. Happy Wednesday. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.